We're joined by one of the most eminent lawyers in Britain, Geoffrey Robertson QC, who is the author of The Case of the Pope. And of course, the Pope is visiting Britain for 4 days. Geoffrey, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Geoffrey, the case against the Pope is extensive, and it's surprising that he has been so warmly welcomed in Britain.
Well, we're a very tolerant society, notwithstanding what his spokesman says, that we're an uncivilized third world country. We are a very liberal democracy and exquisitely polite, even to people we disagree with. So he's had a nice welcome. The Queen, I must say, she was meant to wear black according to Vatican etiquette. Only Catholic queens can wear white, and non-Catholic queens should in his presence wear black, but she wore eggshell blue with black gloves, so making the point that the Vatican is not a power in the land, or not too big a power in the land, but welcome nonetheless.
Geoffrey, your book, The Case of the Pope, Vatican Accountability for Human Rights Abuses. Tell me exactly, and tell our listeners more importantly, how culpable this particular man is and why he is culpable.
Well, it's the case of the Pope, not the case against the Pope. I try and look at both sides. I think he has recognized that the abuse was unspeakable. I mean, what Ireland has gone through, 3 judicial commissions have found that abuse was, one of them said, Judge Murphy, endemic in Catholic boys' homes. That means it happened all the time. And, of course, in America, 10,600 victims. In Belgium, in every parish. And I could go around the world. I think wherever the Catholic Church has a significant operation, there have been child abuse scandals. And we're talking about tens of thousands of children.
Now, it's when he was a Cardinal, Joseph Ratzinger.
Yes, I think
he was in charge of the department in the Vatican that is responsible for dealing with these matters.
That's right, the Sacred Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. And there were a series of cases. These files are absolutely secret, of course, so the public doesn't know the names of the child-abusing priests unless there are copies that are discovered in the course of American litigation. And there have been a number of cases discovered where he in the 1980s and 1990s was told about abuse. Bishops recommended that paedophile priests should be defrocked, and he refused to do so. Probably the worst case is that of Lawrence Murphy, who was the priest who raped 200 deaf boys at a school for deaf boys, and his bishop begged that Joseph Ratzinger that he should be defrocked, and Ratzinger refused and allowed him to die as a full member of the clergy.
What would his rationale have been, Geoffrey?
I think that, and there are worse cases, the case of Father Maciel, the Mexican monster priest who founded a legion so he could abuse the boys in it, and then even raped his own children. He had several wives. He was a bigamist. He told them that he was a CIA agent and with no time for domesticity. Ratzinger had the evidence against him, 11 sworn statements in 1998. He allowed Pope John Paul to bless him in 2004. When he became Pope himself in 2005, he waited a year, and then when the Mexican papers started to expose Father Maciel, he didn't hand the evidence over to the police so he could be prosecuted. He didn't defrock him. He said he invited him to move to another country and to lie low and keep out of the public eye. So I think that that's pretty good evidence that he really put the reputation of the church above the interests of children. And so when he was asked on his way to Britain to explain himself, he said he was shocked by the scandal, but he was, the buck stopped with him. He was the man who was responsible for 30 years now for misbehaving priests, and he's been reluctant to defrock them or hand them over to the law because I think he fears that there'd be great scandal to the reputation of the church. And now, of course, he's had to accept that these are unspeakable crimes that were committed on his watch.
And of course, because the Vatican is a state, it has immunity from the law in a certain way.
Well, I argue that it's not a state because in the law, the state has to have a people, and there are no Vaticanians, and there are a few hundred celibate clerics, so no one gets born in the Vatican except by unfortunate accident, and it doesn't have territory. It's really a palace and gardens, as anyone who's been there will know. So, but a lot of countries, the majority of countries, do treat it as a state and do accord him immunity. So even though he might be thought to have covered up child abuse, none of the police officers who were surrounding him in their hundreds, if not thousands, over the last couple of days have been able to arrest him.
Okay, Geoffrey, thank you very much for joining us on the programme. That's Geoffrey Robertson, QC, author of The Case of the Pope. Chair Colloran, this is deeply shocking to someone of my disposition. I've never been a church basher, and my parents were very devout people, and indeed I grew up in a devout home where we